Excellent. We'll get started. Firstly, apologies for us sitting over here. We decided that this was the more appropriate place for us to sit. Hopefully you can see the slides and us. Just before we begin this session, it's a very informal session. It's a panel, so obviously if people have questions, don't wait till the end. Just put your hand up, throw something at us, just wave. And that's the other thing. If you have a question, we need to give you a microphone because this is being recorded. So just wave your hand and one of us will run. So we're just going to quickly do a round call to sort of introduce who we are. Unfortunately, well, we have a special guest, unfortunately. Very fortunately. I forgot to put Jan's name on because he has just been signed up to do this. But I'll let Jan go first as our celebrity guest. So if you just want to quickly mention who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Jan Westerkamp from IJAG, which is an association of German-speaking Java user groups. Yeah, and as the project moved to the Eclipse Foundation, we decided, yeah, we should support that because that's the base of our other interesting projects we're supporting, like Jakarta EE and Microprofile, the base of the platform. And yeah, getting feedback in these directions is very helpful from our perspective. That was the reason why we joined.
Did you want to introduce yourself, or are you going to do that last? All right. So good afternoon, morning. I'm Tim Ellison. I'm a member of the Adoptium Working Group. As a member, I'm the Red Hat representative, along with Shelley, in the working group. I'm also the chair of the Adoptium PMC, and so we look after all sort of broad aspects of what happens in the Adoptium community.
Hi all, I'm Carmen. I'm the new community manager, and I'm here to help basically. This is a working group that is amazing technology talking. I mean, I'm amazed what they're doing, what I'm planning to do. So I'm the link between Eclipse Foundation and the working group to figure out how to do our best, how to do better strategy, communication, marketing, and whatever they need to solve in the operational part.
Thanks, Carmen. I'm Shelley Lambert. I'm, as Tim mentioned, working at Red Hat. I'm in the working group and on the PMC, and for this year at least, also an Eclipse Foundation board member, as a committer member. And I do want to thank Carmen. This is kind of within your first weeks of joining us, so sorry if we're overwhelming you. And I'll pass it over to George now.
Yes, thank you, Carmen, for joining. I'm George Adams. I work for Microsoft as my day job. Like most of the people here, I'm also on the working group, so I'm the representative for Microsoft, which I also chair. And I'm also a PMC member for all my sins, so I work with this lot very frequently. So what we're going to do, we've got a few slides that just kind of briefly outlay each of the main projects in the Adoptium community. We're going to talk a little bit about the working group and the benefits that joining that can provide to you or your company. And then after that, as I say, we're just going to kind of open it up into a more informal session where, as I say, please feel free to ask questions, share comments. We want to hear if you're using technology provided by us. If you're not, we want to know why not. You're not allowed to stay if you're not. No, we want to hear. We want to get everyone's feedback. So we're very interested. So first slide we have is about the Adoptium Working Group. And I'm going to pick on Tim because I know he's actually just done a nice little recording about the Adoptium Working Group. So I don't know if you're happy just to kind of introduce what it's about, what its goals are, and sort of what value membership would bring.
Yep, thank you. So I guess like a lot of Eclipse working groups, the role of the Adoptium Working Group is to provide support for the technical projects. They don't have any direct technical input on a day-to-day basis. That, of course, is all delegated down to committers who understand the code well and work in that on a day-to-day basis, and the PMC who have technical oversight of the work that takes place. But the working groups, in the simplest form, the intent is to remove obstacles from the developers being productive and to provide them with the resources that they need to continue delivering the world-class products that they deliver. So in that category, we have members covering a wide range of representation in the working group, everything. We've got Fortune 100 companies all the way down to representation of startup companies and working groups to make sure that we have a very broad set of direction that is helping to build a program plan that supports the technical projects. The working group's scope of responsibility is around governance overall, so we need to ensure that the projects are behaving in an appropriate way with a link to the Eclipse Foundation's goals. And we raise funds and additional resources to support those technical projects. That means that we have a fee for joining the working group, and people join at various levels that represents their level of interest and commitment to the Adoptium project. And we also oversee sponsors, so they are people who are not directly part of the working group, but are contributing some way to help the work of the technical projects directly. And we then manage those resources in terms of balancing in a strategic view of what the projects are trying to achieve over the next year, how much of that money will be spent on infrastructure, how much on marketing, how much on legal costs, and so on and so forth, to make sure that there is a balanced strategic advancement for the development work that goes on there. And we've been very lucky. We were kind of established last year, in March last year, I believe, with 8 members. That's now grown to 12 members, all of who are very actively involved in the working group and contributing on a weekly basis to make sure that all of those things happen very well. Yeah, anything else that I missed on that?
I was just going to say, so obviously you mentioned there are a few Java vendors that are part of our working group. But we also have a very broader range of sort of user groups, as we've got Jan here. We've also got enterprise companies, Google being one of the big names that's come in recently, that is obviously planning on rolling Eclipse Temurin out across their Google Cloud platform. And a question for anyone, don't feel like you've got to answer it, Tim, but what value can the working group bring to a company that isn't a vendor but a user of the technology from the Adoptium project?
I'm happy to answer. Yeah, so in the value to being a member is that you have a voice in all of those activities that I spoke about earlier. So when we are building those plans, we need to ensure that the work of the technical projects are delivering a durable solution to people. And by that I mean we're going to invest in the brand. So as a member of the working group, you are collaboratively investing in something which is bigger than any individual will be able to achieve. Now, I'm not going to pick on a user group, but Adoptium is a very large brand used in lots of very large organizations, and it's wonderful that we have the voice of a user group to come along and give input as to what do developers actually care about, what is it that they need from a system such as Adoptium that really helps them succeed. And the way the working group operates is that the user group has got much as a voice in making those decisions as the mega corporations who are also represented in the working group. So there is a kind of multiplier advantage of being in the working group. The working group also defines the quality criteria. So a bit later in the talk here, we're going to talk about Marketplace and AQAvit verification. Vendors can come to the working group and start to mix in to the Adoptium project's definition of quality the criteria that they care about. So what I mean by that is, developers have a certain set of demands on Java, and they're different to cloud companies' demands of running Java, which in turn may be different to organizations that run Java on desktops or run it in embedded systems, right? And to ensure that we are developing products which have the right sort of characteristics and value in each of those different markets, we have to have that breadth of representation on the working group. So when we talk about AQAvit, that is a quality bar that is set for the release, not only of our own products, but is promoted for other people's products to meet. And that quality bar definition is helped by the definition of people who are working in the working group.
Thank you, Tim.
I'm going to just keep going. But
Thumbs up from Shelley. Anything else from anybody? No? Okay, we'll move along. So, quick show of hands here. Who is using Eclipse Temurin today? Yeah, who's heard of it? This is good. People have heard. Just hands up again. Who's using it in production? So not on your developer workstation, your company is using it in production. This is good. Okay, we're we're making progress. So Eclipse Temurin, for those that aren't familiar, is one of the larger projects under the Adoptium umbrella. It's certainly not the only one, and we'll explain that. But Eclipse Temurin provides the equivalent of what people used to think of as AdoptOpenJDK. It's the open source, vendor neutral implementation of OpenJDK as a binary form, so you can download it on your systems. It comes under a GPL license with class path exceptions, so there's no nasty license agreements that you have to sign, no commercial agreements, and it can be used in production in any environment. So, we know with other vendors out there, there's sometimes more technical and complicated agreements you have to sign. It is as simple and as free as beer can be when it comes to OpenJDK. So I'd like to understand, I don't know if anyone else here uses, so I'm going to pick on Red Hat because they're here. So Red Hat, I believe, recently announced commercial support for Temurin. And I think Red Hat's not the only company that's doing so. As we've said, Google is doing so, Microsoft is doing so. I think Azure will also commercially support Temurin. And IBM, thank you, yes. So out of interest, sort of what would you see that commercial support looking like from another company's perspective? So you're using Eclipse Temurin, but you were interested in having a commercial support agreement from a company on top. And again, I don't need lots of specifics here, but I'd be interested to get your thoughts, Tim.
Is this coming back to me again?
I'll pick on Shelley next, don't worry.
All right.
I'm getting warmed up for the AQAvit piece.
All right, very good. I don't want to hog the microphone, really. Yeah, so the support offering is a very traditional way in which Red Hat support open source software. The model is well established, I think, in the industry, and it's one which is well accepted by end users. So this is open source software. It's very consumable, meaning the way you can get hold of this product in the marketplace is via a variety of different mechanisms. You can come to the Adoptium website and download it as an end user. We have APIs which allow you to build it into scripts and come and get the latest version. There are people that take it and redistribute it as part of installation package managers and all those sorts of things. So this is part of the success of open source in general and Temurin in particular, that it's been very consumable and very widely adopted everywhere. And we encourage people to pick it up, use it in development, use it in production as they see fit. But there will come a point in time where you can bring your problems to the community and throw yourself on the mercy of the community to have your fix implemented, which you're entitled to do. Or you have a business which is dependent on the runtime and you want to be able to pick up the telephone, have a neck to strangle, and make sure that the particular bug that you care about is fixed with a particular SLA, a service level agreement, as to how soon that fix is going to take place. This is a little bit different to Red Hat's regular model, where Red Hat would normally take open source software in-house and have a productized stream, which was being maintained. The support that we're declaring for Temurin, and I believe is true for other vendors as well who work in this space, is that we have got the appropriate people in committer roles, in PMC roles, in OpenJDK to be able to work directly with the community and work on fixes there. So you explained a little bit about how we build from OpenJDK at Adoptium. As you know, we do have a copy of the code in Adoptium, and that's kind of the moral equivalent of that productization step. If you come to the community, or potentially a vendor who's offering paid support, and require an urgent fix, then we're going to work with you, first of all, to determine that it really is a problem in the Java runtime. If it is there a workaround that you can live with to make sure that that problem no longer affects you in your production environment? If it is a critical problem and it can't be worked around, then we will carry a temporary fix. And we have the ability to do that, again, under the open source license of the GPL code that we're building from in OpenJDK. We can carry a temporary fix from Adoptium and deliver you that fix in a nightly build to be able to circumvent the problems that you've got. but then we will always champion that fix back up into OpenJDK or the appropriate project to make sure that that fix becomes, you know, the long-term fix that is worked into the next regular cycle. So that's kind of the model that occurs at the moment. What you're paying for, whether you go to IBM or Azure or Microsoft or Red Hat, is the skills of the developers and the ability to get that fix, that temporary fix into the Adoptium builds.
Thank you, Tim. And you mentioned that Adopt is obviously, well, Temurin is very broadly used, and we've all seen the surveys. We know that it is. Anyone but Tim, please. What are some other factors that you think lead to the success of the Temurin project? Why is it being so broadly used by so many different companies and users?
Yeah, I think one of the benefits Temurin offers is the support of a lot of platforms, hardware platforms and operating systems. And that may be a benefit for a member too, to have influence on that priority. We build these platform releases. Yeah, having some funny environment where you need a JVM that is not available on the market. Yeah, you have to buy it, or yeah, you can adopt that little CI/CD pipeline of Adoptium to produce it right in time when it is available and released by OpenJDK. So that's one of the biggest benefits. And you can use Temurin on all of the platforms you use in parallel. That's another benefit. You don't have to take care of another vendor, and that's like...
Yeah, that's a very good point. I do want to add to that because we had an experience a few years ago with the EV3 team and the running Java on the Lego Mindstorms, and then being able to run the full suite of QA tests on those as well. So that's right. Kind of spanning that entire set of platforms. The interesting part about that as well is because you come and you bring your platform with you that you care about, we're bigger than the sum of its parts almost. I think the other thing about the Temurin space, and we have it up there as a bullet point, is the work we're doing around secure software supply chain. So I don't know how many of you know, but we are already distributing an SBOM. It's served up off the API alongside the binary itself. What's an SBOM, you say? Actually, by the way, you're all welcome to ask us questions too. I know it's... yeah.
Yeah.
Software bill of materials.
Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Shelley or Tim, I work for IBM. I met both of you earlier. Wanted to check, is Adoptium following the OpenJDK release cycles? Like, say I said 19, do you release 19 immediately, or is there a gap?
The answer is we do follow the release cycles. We are in the middle of October release, and probably slower because we're all sitting here. So we, I guess the interesting part is we follow those. We're releasing all of the LTS products, but additionally, I think it was hinted upon how we serve up nightly builds as well. So in between those releases, you can pick up an early access build. We build nightly and distribute those through the API as well. So if you needed to pick something up before the next release that you knew went into the OpenJDK code stream, you can pull that in and start testing with it. I don't know if that answered the full question.
Just to follow up, you said LTS, but you would follow not even LTS, but all the 6-month release cadence, right?
Yes, yeah. So the principle of an LTS is vendor specific in theory, that vendors decide which version of Java they intend to provide long-term support for.
Right.
In practice, every vendor chooses the same versions, otherwise it just becomes carnage in the Java ecosystem, not knowing which version of Java you need to be on. So there is a 6-month release cycle for new Java feature releases, and that's just a monotonically increasing Java 9, 10, 11,
Right,
12,
right. Yeah.
and then every 2 years, one of those is chosen as an LTS, and everybody aligns on that, including Adoptium. So 17 is the most recent LTS version. That code stream is maintained for functional and security patches in OpenJDK, and then we pull that down into the AdoptOpenJDK, and we do the build, test, and distribute on all the different platforms.
Okay. And what is it called? Is it called Adoptium
Temurin. The runtime itself is called Temurin. So Adoptium is
version?
The version number will be exactly the same as everybody else's. So Temurin
Okay.
17
So
will
it's
be the
reflex.
Java 17 APIs. We do a Java 19 and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Oh, we've got lots of questions. Hey! Yeah, keep coming. I'm not sure who was next, gone.
Yes, indeed. I was wondering how I can get notified when there is a new Temurin release. The only thing I found so far was I think Temurin releases GitHub repository, but that also has the nightly or the bi-monthly or whatever. So those are not the interesting releases.
Yeah, so we do have, well, we've got a few different options. So we have obviously the website, which is a simple way of going and checking, but in terms of an automated way of getting updates, we offer an API that serves up all of the binaries, and you can query that. And, sorry, I missed some in there. Marketplace. Oh, yes, sorry. And yes, so we publish into the marketplace. We'll talk about the marketplace in a little bit. But we have the API where you can go and query for a set of parameters and say, I'm looking for the latest version of Adoptium for Temurin for this particular platform, for this particular, 1702, for example. Yeah.
So the API is a good way because if you're not wanting to care about the nightlies, you just don't query for the EA tag. You look for the GA tag. Oh, the API is a useful place. All right. Instead of watching the releases repo, which, as you say, is noisy, it's showing you all those nightly builds, we do have what's called the Adoptium API that's fully served. You can go and read the Swagger doc for it, but querying that, looking for the GA release, will let you know which platforms have been released and which version. So it's quite a rich API that people can use. I was surprised actually to find out how few people knew about it. But it is one of those ways I think that we've made Temurin quite consumable, and it's got a lot more features in it than just serve me up the latest release. You might want to look for very specific things, and the number of tags you can use to pinpoint what you're looking for is quite large. All right, I'm passing the microphone back now.
Get him out.
Yeah, practical advice, like I do it personally on my development machine. I do recently homebrew updates on my Mac, and then a new version of Temurin shows up and got installed automatically. So that's very simple type, using a package manager. Yeah.
But so no automatic way of getting it into your RSS feed or an email or whatever?
So we do have the blog where we post all of the latest release notes. So when we obviously release a new version, we will post that, and that blog does have an RSS feed. There's also the Slack channel that we have, which is I think #release, where you can basically track the latest updates. But in terms of like an auto updater, which I think is what you're kind of alluding to, we don't currently have that technology. Yeah, but it's certainly something that would be in the pipeline, and I think for a long time we've been very interested to work on auto updaters for the Temurin build. It's just obviously having the engineering time and experience to implement such a thing.
Yeah, I think we just heard a feature request. No, I just want to pipe in from the side. That sounds like a feature request, and certainly very interested. I do actually think there is an open issue for that at the moment. So if people want that and have some spare cycles, come help us.
Hello, so my question is, there was a time when the OpenJDK was technically inferior to the original Oracle distribution, For example, the hotspot compiler was not included. And I was wondering if it still is the case. Is the Oracle JDK still, or is Oracle still holding something technological back, or is Temurin maybe even further ahead?
All right. Let me give you the political answer. So we only deal in the open source code. The way the system works at the moment is that Oracle will be developing the latest version of Java, maintaining that for 6 months until the next feature release comes along, at which point they then take that inside to Oracle, and you can continue to follow the Oracle builds of Java, or you can follow the OpenJDK, the community managed builds of Java. We follow the OpenJDK open source builds of Java. Vendors can choose to add value as they see fit, whether they are Oracle or IBM or Azul, or I'm going to run out of vendor names in a minute, SAP, etc., etc. Everybody's got their own particular slant on what they need Java to do for them. So, some will be looking to focus on the products that they're supporting. Some will be focusing on the platforms that they're running Java on, and so on and so forth. So they can vary, but they all come together again around the Java specification. So that ensures that the APIs that you call behave the same no matter where this happens, and you can't change those to add value. And then AQAvit, which is the project under the Adoptium umbrella, adds the extra layer on top of that to say, is this build of high quality? Does it have the security fixes in place? Never mind the API behavior. Is it secure? Is it durable? So that means, does it last for a long time as you're running all these applications, or will it fall over quickly? Is it performant? If you're going to run it in an enterprise system, it doesn't just have to pass the API checks, but also it has to be able to perform those at a reasonable speed. And all of these things are additional quality criteria that we expect OpenJDK-based builds to have to be useful in the enterprise. And that's very much what we're targeting at the moment. And so the marketplace that we referred to earlier is a way in which vendors, no matter whether they're built on the original community code or they have their own enhancements and variations to that, can declare that they pass the compatibility tests and demonstrate that they pass the AQAvit verification tests, and then they can be entitled to come into the marketplace. And so this is one of the real selling points of the Adoptium Marketplace as a place to come and get your Java implementation, is that you know that it meets all of those quality criteria.
So do you see some essential technological differences between Oracle and Temurin?
You keep asking me about Oracle, you see. There are a number of different vendors, as I say, and some people will choose to do enhancements to garbage collection. Some have got better JIT compilers on some platforms than others. All I would suggest is that the community is focused around the OpenJDK build, and there are a number of people who are all investing into that common code base. So there has been, as we can see, no end of success in people that choose to run an OpenJDK very successfully, and are very satisfied with the workload and the performance of OpenJDK directly. But your mileage may vary. If you have Oracle hardware, Oracle software, Oracle JVM in the middle, does it work better than having an IBM VM in the middle? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It's going to have to depend upon your particular use case.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We are going to have to move along because I promised Shelley that we'd talk about AQAvit, and we're still on Temurin. So let's keep it short, but let's sort of say, what is AQAvit, Shelley? I know that that's the main part of the project that you're sort of regularly involved in. What do you get up to? Tell us a bit more about it.
No. AQAvit is the Adoptium Quality Assurance Project, and the Vit there means, of course, let's be quick about it, but also let's be vital. So probably not everyone knows that we have a lot of time and effort into quality, and it's not really just intended to make sure Temurin binaries are of high quality. From the beginning, we designed this project and the curated suite of tests that we run within this project to be working for any distribution, because we want to raise the quality bar of Java, of OpenJDK. When we looked at the beginning, before we began this work, we said what was out there, and that was in the open. And we have a wonderful suite of tests in the OpenJDK project, which we include in AQAvit, but we've added a lot more things. So we've selected from many critical open source stacks to include application tests, to include performance benchmarks, and a lot of load and stress tests there. But as I said, we are more than just the set of tests that we include. There is, in fact, a process by which we want to hear and take input from the entire ecosystem and community. It is community driven. And again, also from the start, we thought about, you know, our enterprise consumers. What are they doing to make sure that the binaries they're pulling into their shops actually work for their workloads and purpose? We talked to a lot of them, and they said, yeah, it better be performant, it better be scalable, it better be functionally correct. So after having talked to them, we also said, okay, a lot of people are running a lot of tests behind their corporate walls. We don't know what all of those tests are. We have had a lot of contributions to this project from members and from the consumers we have. So we welcome contributions into this suite. But we also know there's going to be some private test material that will never be open sourced. So the framework that kind of runs all of these tests also allows you to quickly overlay whatever test material you want to run to make it easy. And then we additionally added some tools to make it easier to triage tests, to make it easier to visualize the tests. So when we're talking about running, it would be between 250,000 and 300,000 test cases per platform per version, and we're doing on a release 4 versions times 11 platforms, so 44 different platform combinations, platform version combinations. That means millions and millions of tests during a release cycle. So we're not going to look at each individual test case. We have a set of tools that let us aggregate those test results, let us apply different kinds of analytics and machine learning models to them to make our job a little bit easier at the project. But I'll stop talking about it because I could go on for a long time. And I know not everyone is interested in testing.
Yeah, I know we're very close to time here. I was just going to very quickly ask, you talked about application tests, Shelley, and that's a really interesting area of the project. So let's say I'm a developer of a large open source application, and it obviously runs on Java, just to clarify. How can AQAvit basically ensure that ahead of shipping the latest Temurin release, that Java binary is going to work with that particular application? That's a really interesting piece to me.
Yeah, we'd run the external set of tests that we have as part of the AQAvit suite, and if that application isn't currently in the external set of tests, those are container-based tests, so it's easy to plunk in whatever application you care about and say, is it working on Java 19? Is it working in this version? And in some cases, we see that it's not, and in some cases, we see it's working on the older version of the application, but not the latest, so what do we need to do there? Engage in those communities and make sure that all of us are keeping up to date.
And do you see with AQAvit that ultimately the set of tests that make up Aqua and its group, do you expect that to continue to grow? Do you think it will shrink? Do you think more companies are going to come along and throw their internal tests over the corporate firewall? Or?
Yeah, I think it could continue to grow, but I think we're also getting better at change-based testing and determining, finding defects with less testing. So obviously we could keep, everyone's impressed by numbers and if the number of test cases grow, that's cool. But can we do it with less testing and use less resources? That's kind of where we're going, and that's why we collaborate with a lot of universities and with researchers to say, what's the best way we can improve the world of quality assurance? Yeah.
Thank you. Did I see a hand wave? Yes.
Thank you, Shelley. So you mentioned that it's used by many OpenJDK vendors today, the AQAvit. So is Adoptium kind of tracking the quality of each different vendor or different platform, different builds on the marketplace, the quality head-to-head and the performance of each different build? Or is that something Adoptium is doing? And
Thank you, Salman. Nice to see you. Well, it is a good question, and it's an important question. So hidden in there might be, do we post comparative performance of different implementations? We don't do that, but we provide all the tools to allow others to take a look. And if you look at our TRSS instance and the nightly runs, we actually build more than Temurin in our nightly runs, partly because we want to be able to test and improve AQAvit for all vendors. So you'll be able to see what tests are being run against. I think we have 6 different distributions that we're building nightly, not on all of our platforms, but that lets us kind of get a sniff test of the health of everything that's out there. Yeah, I don't know if it answered your question.
Thank you.
Because you're here, I will also mention thanks to all the development teams that give us feedback. We don't just use this project for, level setting and raising the bar of quality. We actually use it to test brand new features coming in the pipeline. So it's a constantly evolving thing as new features come into OpenJDK. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What's next on the list?
What is next? We've got Marketplace. Tim, can you do a quick pitch on Marketplace? Quick.
Yeah, so I think we've kind of spoken about this already, really, because it brings together the quality tests that AQAvit define, along with making them easily accessible. So the marketplace is an API that serves up links to vendor binaries that have met certain criteria. Those criteria are that the binary has to be TCK compliant, so compliant to job specification. It has to be AQAvit verified, meaning it meets the quality criteria that's set by the working group in the AQAvit project, and that people have signed a publisher agreement to agree to be part of the marketplace. So that's what the marketplace is. It's a place for vendors. It's an additional marketing channel for vendors to distribute their binaries.
Thank you. Any other comments on Marketplace? Oh, we've got a question. Go on. We'll take a question.
Since you said it has to pass TCK, but since since based on OpenJDK, why wouldn't it pass TCK? I mean, because with OpenJDK it should have passed TCK by itself, right?
Ideally, yes. So if you take the code from OpenJDK, you can modify it before you build the binary,
okay,
right? So when you're distributing a binary, we have to be assured that you have passed the TCK on that specific binary.
Okay. So, and was there any case where there were failures?
We wouldn't entertain a binary that was offered to us to put it in there. So it's required the vendor passes that already.
Now I'm holding the mic. One more question. Do you support Mac M2 versions as well?
Yeah, we certainly build a silicon compliant Mac build. So yeah, we're able to build. I don't think there's any kind of architectural difference for the JDK between M1 and M2.
Yeah.
So yeah, it works, and you can download it in any other way, in the same way you would with Intel.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wrap it there. Sorry for running over, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you for the questions.